You're awake because you heard the fence rattle. It's been 52 hours since the lights went out. 52 hours since your phone died. Since the grocery store became a gutted shell. Since your neighbor, the one who coached Little League, who brought you cookies at Christmas, stopped waving when you made eye contact through the window. Now he's in your backyard with two other men you don't recognize, and they're not here to borrow sugar. This is hour 52, the exact moment when the 7-2
Our violence curve peaks.
the moment when society doesn't just crack, it shatters. And if you don't understand why this is happening, if you think this is some random breakdown, some unpredictable chaos, you're already dead. Because this isn't chaos. This is a pattern, a predictable, empirically observable pattern that's repeated itself across 50 plus blackouts, hurricanes, earthquakes, riots, and collapses over the last 60 years. From the 1977 New York blackout to Hurricane Katrina, from the LA riots to the 2019 Venezuela grid failure, the curve is always the same. The timeline is always the same. The only variable is whether you see it coming. Here's what nobody tells you about disasters. There's a window, a 72-hour window where human behavior transforms from cooperative to competitive to outright predatory. And it's not because people are inherently evil. It's not because society is a thin veneer over our savage nature. It's because morality, real, functional morality, requires three things that disappear the moment the grid goes down: immediate consequences, future orientation. Take those away, and the average person doesn't become a monster. They become a rational actor in a game where the rules just changed. And the new rules are simple. Get yours before someone else does, protect yours before someone else takes it, survive because nobody's coming to save you. The 7-2, our violence curve isn't a theory, it's a timeline, a map of exactly when looting starts, when home invasions spike, when your neighbor stops being your neighbor and starts being a competitor for the last gallon of water in a 5-mile radius. And if you're sitting there thinking your neighborhood is different, your community will band together, people are good at heart. You're operating on the single most dangerous assumption a prepper can make. Because history says you're wrong. Sociology says you're wrong. Criminology, psychology, and 100 disaster response case studies say you're wrong. There are two stories people tell about disasters. The first is the optimistic story, the one the media loves, the one your government repeats, the one Hollywood makes movies about. After the earthquake, after the hurricane, after the towers fall, humanity unites. Neighbors help neighbors. Strangers pull strangers from the rubble. Volunteers flood in. The lesson? People are good. Crisis brings out the best in us. We're all in this together. And you know what? That story is true for about 18 hours. The second story is the doomer story, the prepper forum story, whispered in gun shop parking lots and apocalypse Reddit threads. The moment the power dies, humanity reverts. The veneer of civilization is tissue paper thin. People loot immediately. Violence everywhere, dog eat dog, survival of the fittest, kill or be killed.
A lesson?
People are animals. Society is a lie. Prepare to defend your family from every single person you meet, because they're all coming for your food. And that story, also true, but not for 72 hours. Here's the reality nobody wants to say out loud, because it doesn't fit a neat narrative. Both stories are incomplete. Human behavior in a crisis isn't binary, good or evil, cooperative or predatory. It's conditional, it's context dependent, and it follows a predictable curve based on four variables: duration of the crisis, resource availability, anonymity versus accountability, and expectation of restoration. Duration matters. In the first 0 to 48 hours, pro-social behavior dominates. 80 to 90% of people help strangers. They share food, they pull people from wreckage. They form bucket brigades and neighborhood watches. Disaster psychology researchers have documented this over and over. Short-term crises bring out cooperation because people still believe in tomorrow. They believe help is coming, power will be restored, society will go back to normal. So they act like tomorrow matters. They preserve their reputation. They follow internalized norms. But extend that crisis past 48 hours, past 72, that cooperation crumbles because the assumption of tomorrow dies. Resources matter when water still flows from the tap. When store shelves still have food, people stay calm. They wait their turn. They grumble, but they don't riot. But the moment scarcity becomes visible, Empty shelves, dry faucets, gas stations with bags over the pumps, panic sets in. And panic erodes patience, erodes fairness, erodes the social contract. Hurricane Katrina, pre-storm, people evacuated in orderly lines. Post-storm, when the water rose and the supply trucks didn't come and the realization hit that New Orleans was alone, that's when the looting started. Not immediately, not hour 0, hour 18, hour 24, when desperation replaced optimism. Anonymity matters. Small towns don't riot. You know why? Because everyone knows everyone. If you loot the hardware store, Bob, the owner, knows your face, knows your family, and you'll be paying for that for the rest of your life, socially, economically, maybe physically. Reputation is currency in small communities. But cities, anonymous cities, where you're one face in a million, where you can smash a window, grab a flat screen, and disappear into the crowd, no reputational cost, no identification, no consequences. That's why the 1977 New York blackout saw 1,600 stores looted in 31 neighborhoods in less than 24 hours, while the 1965 blackout, same city, similar demographics, saw almost zero looting. Expectation matters. If people believe the cavalry is coming, FEMA, the National Guard, the power company, they endure, they ration, they help each other because they think it's temporary. But if that expectation collapses, if the radio stays silent and the lights stay dark and the official messaging is absent or contradictory, people shift gears. They stop thinking in terms of days and start thinking in terms of indefinite survival. And indefinite survival rewrites the moral calculus. It's no longer, we'll tough this out together. It's, I need to secure resources for my family for an unknown duration, and if that means taking from you, then that's the new math. So when someone says people will help each other, they're right. For 18 to 36 hours in a localized crisis with visible aid on the way. And when someone says people will kill each other, they're also right. After 72 hours in a widespread collapse with no help visible and resources dwindling, the curve is the synthesis. The curve is the truth neither side wants to admit, because it means you can't afford to be naive and you can't afford to be paranoid. You have to be adaptive. You have to read the timeline and adjust your posture, hour by hour, phase by phase. Let me walk you through the phases. Hour 0 to 8 is shock and denial. The power goes out. Not a flicker, a hard, sudden stop. Lights dead, air conditioning silent, the hum of civilization gone. You flip the light switch. You check your phone, maybe one bar, maybe none, and the battery's draining faster than it should. Your brain is hardwired to expect patterns, to assume continuity. Power outages happen, sure, but they last 20 minutes, maybe an hour.
So your brain tells you a story. This is temporary, this is normal. The lights will come back on any minute.
That's normalcy bias. And it's a survival mechanism in most contexts. But in a real collapse, it's a liability. Because while you're waiting for normal to return, the clock is ticking. Most people spend hour 0 to hour 8 doing nothing. They sit, they wait, they look out the window to see if the neighbors have power. They try the light switch 5 more times, as if repetition will summon electricity. Some walk to a neighbor's house, knock, ask if their power is out too. Information-seeking behavior. Rumor spreading. I heard it's a cyber attack. My cousin texted me before the towers went down. He said it's nationwide. Someone on the radio said the grid's fried, won't be back for weeks. Most of these rumors are false. Some are true. You have no way to know which because communication is collapsing in real time. The key thing about this phase, crime is almost non-existent. Criminals are in shock too. They haven't assessed the opportunity yet. Japan's 2011 earthquake, hour 0 to hour 8, saw zero looting, not low looting. Zero. Why? Cultural factors, sure, but also because people were in shock. The earthquake was so massive, the tsunami so devastating that people's brains couldn't process it yet. They were stuck in disbelief, trying to rescue survivors, trying to find family, trying to comprehend the scale. Crime requires forethought, requires recognizing opportunity.
That takes time.
But don't confuse calm with safety. This phase is your golden window. This is when you act, not wait, not hope, act. Because in 8 hours, the crowd wakes up. And when they do, every gas station, every grocery store, every ATM within 10 miles is going to be mobbed.
What should you be doing hour 0 to hour 8?
Securing your home, locking gates, closing curtains, moving valuables out of sight, Retrieving family members, kids from school if you can get there before the traffic snarls, spouse from work if the roads are still passable, topping off gas tanks, filling every container you own with water. Bathtubs, sinks, pots, buckets, because municipal water pressure depends on electric pumps, and those pumps die when their backup batteries drain in 12 to 24 hours. Withdrawing cash if ATMs are still working, though most will be empty or offline by hour 12. Making one last supply run, but only if the stores are still calm. If you see a line snaking out the door, if you see raised voices and shopping carts being weaponized, you've waited too long. Turn around, go home. Lock the door. This is the phase where prepared people separate from the herd. The herd waits. You move. Hour 8 to 24 is realization and panic buying. The sun sets. No specifics, no timeline, no reassurance. Fear replaces denial, and fear triggers the resource acquisition instinct. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, physiological needs at the base: water, food, warmth. Safety needs next: security, shelter, health, belonging, esteem, self actualization at the top. Morality lives in those top three tiers: conscience, empathy, altruism. But when the base of the pyramid is threatened, when you realize you don't have water for tomorrow, food for next week, your brain abandons the top tiers. Survival mode activates. And survival mode doesn't care about your neighbor's needs, it cares about your family's. So the panic buying begins. Hour 8 to hour 16. Lines at gas stations stretch for blocks, wait times 20 minutes, 40, an hour, tempers flare, honking, shoving, fistfights over cutting in line. Stations run dry by hour 12 to hour 20, depending on size and location. Grocery stores are war zones. Not violent yet, but close. People stripping shelves. Water, canned goods, bread, batteries, baby formula. Gone in the first wave. Cart ramming, shoving matches in aisles. Checkout lines that don't move because registers are down and overwhelmed clerks are trying to process cash transactions manually. Store security, if there is any, can't control it. Police don't respond to "people are rude at Walmart" calls when they're getting reports of multi-car pileups and heart attack victims and structure fires with no water pressure to fight them. And then, right at the edge of this phase, hour 12 to hour 24, the opportunistic looting begins. Not organized, not systematic. Teens, petty criminals, people who see an unguarded storefront and think, why not? Smash the window of a liquor store, grab bottles, run, smash the window of an electronics store, grab a laptop, run. No one stops them. Police are elsewhere. Store owners either aren't there or are overwhelmed. Bystanders, they're not intervening. They're too busy trying to get their own supplies. And besides, someone else will call the cops. Someone else will stop them. Not my problem. If you're still out in this phase, if you didn't lock down during hour 0 to 8, you're exposed. You're in the crowd. You're visible. And visibility is risk, because the crowd is where the violence starts. The crowd is where you get trampled, where your car gets boxed in, where someone decides your bag of groceries is worth more to them than your safety. If you're home, this is when you fortify. Board windows if you have plywood. Reinforce doors. Bar them from the inside with furniture if you don't have security doors. Move vehicles inside your gate if you have one. Establish a defensive posture. Distribute firearms to trained family members if you have them. Load magazines. Identify fields of fire. Where would an intruder come from? And where do you position to stop them? Establish watch rotations. 2 people awake at all times minimum. 1 watching the front, 1 the back. You're not being paranoid. You're being early. Because in 12 hours, when phase 3 hits, this goes from excessive caution to why didn't I do this sooner? Hour 24 to 48 is desperation and opportunistic crime. It's been a full day, maybe longer. You haven't had running water in 18 hours. You've been rationing what's in your bottles, your bathtub. Your kids are thirsty. Your spouse is scared. The heat is oppressive if it's summer because there's no air conditioning, and opening windows means noise discipline is gone, and anyone outside can hear you, can target you. And you're not the only one doing that math. Everyone is. And for a significant percentage of the population, the ones who didn't prepare, who assumed the government would come, who spent hour 8 to 24 fighting over the last case of water at Costco and came home empty-handed,
Not mild concern. Desperation. The kind that rewires your brain.
the kind that makes a law-abiding accountant smash a pharmacy window to get insulin for his diabetic daughter, the kind that makes a school teacher hold a knife to a stranger's throat for a gallon of water. This is the phase where crime stops being opportunistic and starts being systematic. Looting intensifies and organizes. It's no longer lone teenagers grabbing random stuff. It's groups of 5, 10, 20 people coordinating. They've had 24 hours to think, to plan, to identify targets. High-value stores, pharmacies for drugs, gun stores for weapons, sporting goods stores for gear, grocery warehouses for bulk food. They're using vehicles now. Drive a truck through the front window, load up, drive away. Police? Either absent, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of calls, pulled back to protect critical infrastructure like hospitals and government buildings, or actively retreating because they're outnumbered and scared. The 1992 LA riots, LAPD withdrew from South Central for hours, ceded entire neighborhoods to the mob because staying meant getting killed. Home invasions begin in this phase. Criminals have assessed the landscape. They know which homes are dark, no lights, no movement, easy targets. They know which homes have elderly or single occupants, soft targets. They know which homes are in isolated areas where screams won't be heard. They move at night, smash a door or window, enter, steal food, water, weapons, valuables. If you're home and you resist, violence escalates. Beatings, rape, murder. If you're not home, if you evacuated or you're out searching for supplies, they take everything and you come back to a gutted shell. Carjacking spike. If you're on the road, you're a target. Someone sees your car, assumes you have supplies in it, assumes you have a full tank or at least more gas than they do. They box you in, guns drawn. Get out, you get out or you get shot. They take the car, maybe they take your supplies. Maybe they take you with them if they think you're valuable. Ransom, forced labor, worse. Water becomes a flashpoint. Public sources, fountains, fire hydrants, rivers, lakes are now contested. Groups claim control. This is our water source. You want access? Pay up, trade, or leave. Fights break out. People are stabbed over a 5-gallon jug. In the 2010 Haiti earthquake aftermath, UN water trucks were mobbed, people crushed in the rush, riots when the trucks ran dry, machete fights over position in line. Medical crises compound the chaos. Hospitals are dark. Backup generators failed or ran out of fuel. Dialysis patients die. Ventilator patients die. Operating rooms shut down. Insulin spoils in fridges without power. People with chronic conditions deteriorate rapidly. Pharmacies are looted, so even if you have a prescription, there's no supply. Desperate parents smash windows to get their child's medication.
Are they criminals?
Legally, yes. Morally, you tell me. That's the collapse of the moral framework. The rules don't fit the reality anymore, so people make their own rules. This is the phase where you realize the government is not coming, not in time, not in force. Maybe eventually day 5, day 7, but not now. You're alone. Your household is alone. Your neighborhood, if you're lucky enough to have organized one, is alone. And the threats aren't random. They're organized. They're armed. They're desperate. And desperation makes people dangerous in ways mere evil doesn't, because desperate people have nothing to lose. What's your play in phase 3? Lockdown. Total. No one leaves unless absolutely necessary. Life or death medical emergency. Structure fire, imminent threat that requires evacuation. If you must move, you move in groups. Minimum 3 people, all armed if possible. You move during daylight, you avoid main roads, you avoid other people entirely. Cross the street, duck into cover, whatever it takes. You do not engage. You do not help strangers because you can't distinguish between a genuine victim and a scout for a gang. Cold, yes. Necessary? Absolutely. At home, you're on 24/7 watch, rotating guard shifts, 2 people awake minimum, ideally 3 if you have the manpower, night vision if you have it, dogs if you have them, not as weapons, but as early warning. A dog barking buys you 30 seconds to grab your rifle and get to your defensive position, and 30 seconds is the difference between repelling an attack and dying in your sleep. You've barricaded entry points. You've identified rally points inside the house. If they breach the front door, everyone falls back to the master bedroom. which you've reinforced and stocked with water, a firearm, a radio. You've prepared escape routes. If the house is overrun or on fire, where do you go? You've cached supplies there already, right? And you've made your home look unappetizing. Gray man principles apply to structures too. Broken window with glass scattered outside. Graffiti looted or noting left. Trash in the yard. Door hanging open but actually reinforced from inside. You want looters to think someone already hit you, that there's nothing to gain, because every looter who passes you by is one you don't have to fight. Hour 48 to 72 is organized violence and tribalism. 72 hours. 3 days without power, without water infrastructure, without law enforcement, without the hum of civilization. And now the curve peaks. This is the inflection point, the moment when opportunistic crime becomes organized violence, when individuals become gangs, when neighborhoods become territories, when survival becomes tribal. Here's what's happening psychologically. Your in-group has shrunk to its absolute core. It's no longer Americans or my city or even my neighborhood. It's your family, maybe a handful of trusted neighbors you've been coordinating with. Everyone else? Outgroup, potential threat, competitor for resources. And outgroups, in collapse conditions, are dehumanized. You don't see them as people with families and fears and hopes. You see them as obstacles, as threats, as resources to be taken or threats to be neutralized. This is where pre-existing gangs activate. Crips, Bloods, Mississippi. 1-3, cartels in border regions. They have structure, they have hierarchy, they have weapons and experience and ruthlessness. In normal times, they're constrained by police. In collapse, they're apex predators. They expand territory. They eliminate rivals. They loot systematically. Not smash and grab, but planned raids on warehouses, on homes they've scouted, on convoys if aid starts arriving. The LA riots, Korean store owners armed themselves on rooftops because the gangs were rolling through in waves and the police weren't coming. AR-15s, shotguns firing into the street to deter looters. Some firefights. No Koreans in Koreatown killed during the defense, but 9 killed elsewhere in the city, in areas they didn't fortify. The lesson? Organized defense works. Isolation doesn't. Ad hoc militias form. Neighborhood watch becomes armed patrol, becomes warlord faction. It starts innocently. We need to protect our block. Guys with hunting rifles, maybe one AR, standing on the corner, checking IDs, turning back strangers. But power corrupts fast when there's no oversight. Day 3, they're protecting. Day 5, they're securing resources from adjacent blocks. Day 7, they're raiding, taking food from neighbors 2 streets over because we need it more, taking weapons. Taking women in the worst cases, sexual violence spikes in this phase, and militias are often the perpetrators, not the defenders. Tribalism becomes violent. Ethnic, racial, religious lines harden. The LA riots, Black versus Korean violence. Korean businesses targeted because of pre-existing tensions. The riots became payback. Koreatown burned. But Koreans fought back, and the violence stayed contained to flashpoints. Now imagine that over weeks, months. That's Bosnia in the 90s. Neighbors who'd lived side by side for generations, suddenly killing each other because one was Serb and one was Bosniak, and the state collapsed and tribal identity was the only identity left. Organized raids intensify. Groups of 10, 20, 50 armed men. Rifles, body armor if they looted a police station or National Guard armory, vehicles, radios if they have battery power. They target warehouses and distribution centers for food, water, fuel, medical supplies in bulk, hospitals and pharmacies for drugs, opioids, antibiotics, insulin, anesthetics with high barter value, homes of known preppers. If you bragged pre-collapse about your bunker, your year's supply of food, your armory, you're a target. Operational security means shut up, always. Because in collapse, loose lips don't sink ships. They get you killed. Rural homesteads and farms, city dwellers flee to the countryside assuming it's safer, assuming farmers will have food. Some farmers help. Some shoot on sight. Checkpoints emerge. Gangs or militias set up roadblocks. Demand toll. Cash, goods, barter. Turn back those who can't pay. Shoot those who resist. Neighborhoods barricade. No one in or out without permission. Warlord dynamics. The strongest gang in an area becomes the de facto government. They extract tribute. They impose rules, curfew, rationing, forced labor. They punish violators, beatings, executions, public displays to maintain control. This isn't hypothetical. This is Somalia, 1991. This is Sierra Leone. This is parts of Mexico controlled by cartels today. Sexual violence spikes. Rape is underreported even in normal times. In collapse, it's epidemic and invisible. Women and children traveling alone are targeted. Women in refugee camps report rape as routine. Men with guns, no law, and vulnerable victims. The math is ugly. Militias, gangs, even protector groups commit sexual violence. Power plus impunity equals atrocity every single time. Vigilante justice, looters caught are shot or hanged. No trial, no due process. Strung up as warnings. Rival gang members executed on sight. Snitches. People suspected of collaborating with outgroups or with authorities if any authorities remain. Tortured. Killed. Bodies left visible. Terror as deterrent. Now, here's the critical question. Does order return or does collapse become permanent? Two paths. Path A is stabilization, massive government or military intervention.
Tens of thousands of troops.
Martial law. Shoot to kill curfews. Overwhelming force that convinces gangs and militias that resistance is suicide. Aid arrives. FEMA trucks, military MREs, water tankers. Power starts coming back in sectors. Communication is restored. Hope returns. Future orientation resumes. People start thinking long-term again, which means cooperation becomes rational again. The LA riots ended this way. Hour 72, the National Guard and Marines rolled in with armored vehicles and orders to shoot looters. Violence stopped almost immediately. Curfew enforced. Mass arrests. By day 5, the city was tense but controlled. By day 10, it was rebuilding. Path B is collapse. Government lacks capacity. No troops arrive, or not enough. Aid is sporadic or non-existent. Power doesn't come back. Weeks pass. Months. Warlord territories stabilize into permanent fiefdoms. Barter economy replaces currency. Slavery reemerges. Kidnapping women, children, able-bodied men for labor or exploitation. Agriculture restarts, but raiding is constant. Population declines, starvation, disease, violence kill 10 to 50% in the first year, depending on severity and outside intervention. New social order, tribal, feudal, theocratical, ideological. Might makes right. Somalia, 1991 to 2012. Syria, 2011 to now. Venezuela, 2013 to now. These aren't recoveries. They're new equilibriums. Failed states, permanent collapse. Which path your region takes depends on variables. But here's the thing about hour 48 to 72. This is the peak. This is when you're most likely to die. Not from starvation. That takes weeks. Not from thirst. You've been rationing. From violence. From an organized gang raid. From a militia deciding your home is their next target. From a checkpoint shooting you because you couldn't pay the toll, or because they wanted your supplies, or because they felt like it. Your defensive posture in this phase, maximum. Soon attack is imminent. All adults armed and positioned. Children and elderly in the most defensible interior room, reinforced, stocked with water and food and a firearm for last resort defense. Rules of engagement. Anyone breaching your perimeter is a lethal threat. No warnings, no negotiations. You shoot to stop the threat. Center mass. Multiple rounds. Confirm the target is down before you shift to the next. If overwhelming force arrives, if you see 30 armed men outside your fence, you have seconds to decide. Fight and die, or surrender and hope they take supplies but leave you alive. There's no good answer. If you've planned well, you have a bug-out plan. Cache hidden outside your property, rally point miles away, escape route that doesn't use main roads. You grab essentials. You run, you survive to rebuild. But running in phase 4 is almost as dangerous as staying because the roads are controlled, the checkpoints are lethal, and you're exposed. This is the phase where preppers who didn't take it seriously die. The ones who thought, I have guns, I'll be fine. Guns without training, without a team, without planning, mean nothing against organized groups. The ones who thought, my neighborhood will band together, maybe. Or maybe your neighbor is the one who raids you because his kids are starving and you have food. The ones who thought, the government will restore order, maybe. Or maybe you're in Venezuela and the government is the reason the grid is down, and they're not coming because they are the warlords.
The survivors in phase 4?
The ones who saw the curve coming. The ones who locked down in phase 2. The ones who built a trusted team before the collapse. The ones who trained. the ones who stayed invisible, the ones who understood that survival isn't about being the toughest. It's about not being a target. Let's talk about why this happens, why good people loot, why your neighbor becomes a threat, why morality, which we're taught is intrinsic, is actually conditional. Because if you don't understand the psychology, you'll keep assuming people will do the right thing. And that assumption will get you killed. Bottom tier, physiological needs: water, food, sleep, warmth. Second tier, safety, security, health, shelter. Third, belonging, love, friendship, connection. Fourth, esteem, respect, status, achievement. Top, self-actualization, morality, creativity, purpose. Here's the thing about morality: it lives in the top 3 tiers. Empathy, that's belonging. Conscience, that's esteem and self-actualization. Altruism, top of the pyramid. But the pyramid is a hierarchy for a reason. You can't worry about self-actualization when you're dying of thirst. You can't worry about belonging when your safety is threatened. When the base of the pyramid collapses, when you have no water, no food, no security, your brain abandons the top tiers. Survival brain takes over. Prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for impulse control and moral reasoning, deactivates. fMRI studies show this. Subjects under extreme stress or hunger show reduced activity in the amygdala, fear, aggression, survival instinct. So when someone loots a pharmacy, they're not evil. Their brain has reprioritized. Morality is a luxury their brain can't afford right now. The diabetic parent smashing the window for insulin isn't thinking about property rights. They're thinking, my child dies without this, the store is closed, no one is here, if I don't take it, my child dies. That's not moral reasoning, that's survival calculus. And once you cross that line once you violate a norm you've held your entire life, the second time is easier. The third, easier still. Moral erosion is a slippery slope, and collapse greases it. Crime occurs when the expected benefits outweigh the expected costs times the probability of punishment. In normal times, robbery has high costs: arrest, prison, losing your job, your family, your reputation. Probability of punishment is moderate. Let's say 40% chance you get caught. So the calculus is steal $500, face a 40% chance of 5 years in prison plus total life destruction. Bad trade. Don't steal. But in a blackout, costs drop to near zero. No police, no cameras, no functioning justice system. Social stigma? Everyone's looting. You're not an outlier. Probability of punishment? Let's be generous and say 5%. Now the calculus is steal $500 worth of food and medicine, face a 5% chance of maybe some consequences later versus don't steal and watch your family starve. Easy trade. Steal. This isn't a moral failing. This is rational decision-making in altered conditions. Good people, faced with altered incentives, make altered choices. That's the curve. That's why Hour 48 sees massive looting even in communities that had zero crime. Hour 0. Humans are tribal. We form in-groups, people like us, people we trust, people we cooperate with. We form out-groups, everyone else. In-group gets our empathy, our resources, our protection. Out-group gets suspicion, competition, hostility. In normal times, the in-group is large, Americans. My city, my coworkers. But under stress, the in-group shrinks. My neighborhood, my family, me. Dunbar's number 150. That's the cognitive limit on stable social relationships. Beyond 150, you can't track everyone's reputation, trustworthiness, reciprocity. You need institutions, laws, markets, reputation systems to maintain cooperation. But institutions collapse in grid-down events. And without institutions, cooperation beyond Dunbar's number collapses. Your neighbor, 2 blocks over, who you've never met?
Out-group.
Potential threat, competitor. Cooperation depends on the iterated prisoner's dilemma.
If we interact once and never again, defecting, betraying you.
But if we interact repeatedly, if I expect to see you tomorrow, next week, next year, cooperation is rational because betrayal damages my reputation and you'll retaliate. Long-term thinking incentivizes cooperation. But collapse destroys future orientation. If I believe society is over, that I'll never see you again, that there are no long-term consequences because we're all going to starve or kill each other in a month anyway, why cooperate? Why not take what I need now while I can? Collapses future orientation. There is no tomorrow becomes the operating assumption. And without tomorrow, morality evaporates. The 7-2-hour violence curve is a map. It doesn't predict every individual event, every local variation, but it predicts the pattern, the macro trend. And the trend is this: human morality is conditional, it's fragile. It lasts about 72 hours in the absence of consequences, resources, and hope. After that, cooperation is replaced by competition. Community is replaced by tribalism. Law is replaced by might makes right. This isn't doomerism. This isn't pessimism. This is pattern recognition from 50 plus historical events. From the 1977 New York blackout to Katrina to the LA riots to Haiti to Venezuela to Somalia to Bosnia, the curve repeats. The timeline repeats. The behaviors repeat because humans repeat. We're predictable. Our psychology, our sociology, our criminology, all of it maps onto the curve. So here's the uncomfortable question. Are you prepared? Not, do you have a year's supply of food? Prepared. Are you prepared to watch your neighbor, your friend, become a threat? Are you prepared to defend your home with lethal force? Are you prepared to make choices that violate everything you were taught about morality and decency because the alternative is death? Most people aren't, and that's fine in a Path A world where the National Guard shows up on day 5 and order is restored. But in a Path B world, unpreparedness is a death sentence. The preppers who survive are the ones who see the curve coming, the ones who don't wait for hour 24 to start fortifying, the ones who don't assume their neighbors will stay friendly, the ones who build trust and alliances before the collapse, not during, the ones who train, who plan, who accept that the world can end and that when it does, the rules change. You don't have to be a doomer. You don't have to be paranoid. You just have to be realistic. Human behavior is predictable. Collapse is predictable. The curve is predictable. The only question is, when the lights go out, will you be ahead of the curve or behind it? Because behind it, you're just another statistic, another name in the casualty count, another person who thought it won't happen here. People are good, will help each other. Ahead of it, you're a survivor. And in 72 hours, that's the only thing that matters.